let us all do we can to build a better future.
Well, what do you know about Forever Chemicals, Kit?
Well, I was perusing through your articles, and I had a horrifying flashback to early 2018 when Daniel Lupker and I covered the toxic tour in Indiana, where, again, you can check out that short documentary on Heartlands Media, where we were talking about how these non-regulated and heavy industrial facilities, centers, were dumping regulated toxic waste into Lake Michigan. I will never swim in Lake Michigan for as long as I live because of what I know is in the water, and that stuff's permanent.
Yes, hence the name Forever Chemicals. So the Chicago Tribune did a article about this. It's one of the places that did an article. So more than 8 million people in Illinois get their drinking water from a utility where Forever Chemicals have been detected. So Forever Chemicals are para and polyfluoral. Oh wow, I practiced this word. Fluoroalkyl substances.
You got it.
Also known as PFAS. So we're just going to call them PFAS from now on because I refuse to keep saying that word because I can't. So we've used PFAS chemicals in a lot of things for a long time because they're good at doing everything. Okay. So they're able to repel oil and water. They're flame retardant. They reduce friction. Like they're in your nonstick cooking pan. They're in your raincoat. You know, they're in your fire extinguisher foam. They're in everything because they're good at doing everything. Okay. They don't break down. Like they're man-made chemicals. We have created them. They're not found in nature. Yes. They do not break down, and so they have been known to accumulate in our soil, water, and our bodies. Like, we have them in us.
What could go possibly wrong?
Well, they've been linked to thyroid disorders, diabetes, elevated cholesterol, low birth rates, and cancer, as well as other things.
Well, those are all frightening. Hey.
Those are all things that can go wrong.
Hey, we did it, folks.
So, again, like they have found these PFAS chemicals in drinking water across the nation. Michigan currently, and at least as of 2019, was the state most affected by these chemicals in their drinking water, followed closely by California and New Jersey. Like Flint is still like having real problems with the purity of their water. Like people are still having a lot of health issues due to their drinking water. They're getting rashes still, headaches. Like it's still a big problem in Flint. So we knew that they were in our drinking water too, the Illinois EPA. Like there was warning signs, but they didn't start doing any kind of testing until 2020. Even though there was a lot of signs before that, again, because every state around us had quite a lot of, they were testing everywhere else, and the levels were incredibly high.
My goodness.
But the Illinois EPA didn't start testing our water until 2020.
It's interesting you say this because while you were talking, I actually found the link to our documentary series that we did. Oh. It was only 16 minutes long, but again, I had a lot of flashbacks hit back to me because Daniel and I, we were by the largest tar sand facility in Indiana. We were by a large blast furnace as well. We were by a lot of heavy industry, oil, gas, chemicals. And one of the areas we also stopped by was East Chicago, Indiana, which was built on top of the remnants of a large lead smelter factory. Now, the lead there, I think, is above the quote-unquote safe, because there's no such thing as safe amount of lead. There never will be. Barack Obama, you are a liar. You eating paint chips and then drinking water. That stunt in Flint, Michigan. The people had every right to call you out for a fraud.
Wait, he did what?
Oh, yeah, you didn't see that stunt that he did?
No.
Oh, this is a world-famous stunt, yeah. Obama went to Flint, Michigan. You know, he went there, and he said, look, we know you all have been drinking some bad water, and he did his little spiel thing, and he said, but we're doing everything to make sure the water's clean, and the audience is happy that Obama's there, because, Obama was still riding high on his aura of being this very wonderful politician,
He's very charismatic.
And he says, I'm feeling a little bit thirsty, and glass of water from Flint, Michigan. His lips barely touched the glass. You know when you do a fake drink? He did that. That's right. Obama did that. Right? Vote blue no matter who crowd. And the people, and you could hear the people in Flint, Michigan, the crowd there, you could hear a pin drop. They're all like, no, don't do it.
Don't drink that.
Yeah, and he did that stunt not once, but twice in the same freaking day.
Good for him.
Scumbag.
All right, great. Awesome.
Oh, yeah, hold on, wait. Sabisto said, you got the correct quote. I don't normally do stunts, but can I get a glass of water? That's what he said. That's what Barack Obama said.
Okay.
There you go.
Awesome. So.
I went off on a tangent.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, wow, geez. In any case, there have been some steps to trying to rectify, quote unquote, this problem. The Department of Defense has until 2024, for instance, to create a firefighting foam that does not use PFAS chemicals. Mm-hmm. But as of last year, there wasn't yet anything done federally to really do anything about the chemicals in drinking water. So in 2016, the EPA set a non-enforceable health advisory that was 70 parts per trillion for only, like, is a safe amount. 70 parts per trillion for 2 of the PFAS chemicals. It's not really adequate, but it was, an attempt. But according to a study that they completed in June of this year, the actual safe number is less than 1 part per trillion. And even that is, it's basically they found there are no safe parts. Like, it's not safe.
Yeah, it's not safe.
And, like, you can't do this 70 parts per trillion thing. It's not an accurate representation. There are no safe amounts of these PFAS chemicals. It just isn't. So the Great Lakes region is getting pretty terrible.
Yes, and again, while I do want to again look, folks. I want to say Harlan's Media was there first. I posted a link in the chat, and I'll even when you're done, I'll send a link to Faye so people can see what the video is we're talking about. We won't need to play it, but just so y'all can see the title for yourself, that we covered this story about other industrial facilities dumping regulated toxic waste. When I want to talk about regulated toxic waste, imagine toxic waste in a jug, and you mix it in with regular water. Mix it up there, and then you spew it out into Lake Michigan. Dilution is solution.
Yeah.
You just put water in and just go in the lake. Then it's safe.
Yeah. So the EPA has announced recently a new infrastructure to try and grant a new infrastructure grant to address the pollution from the PFAS and other chemicals. Apparently the Biden administration has listed some steps that various government agencies can take to try and reduce their emissions for the PFAS pollution. The main thing that needs to happen, though, is there needs to be more regulations on manufacturers, because they're still using these things. They're still very able to use them. And that's the main issue is manufacturers are like, but we need to. So it's like, we're going to need people to innovate is really what needs to happen is people need to, there needs to become a need to innovate. Necessity is the mother of invention. Like, we have to get rid of these things. So the way to do that is make it so we're not allowed to use them anymore so that we can innovate new ways. We've done it before with the the chlorofluorocarbon thing. Like when that was in all of the aerosol in the 60s, they finally put some kibosh on that. And guess what? We don't need to use those anymore. I mean, we do still sometimes, but we've drastically reduced certain dangerous chemicals and we found things that work. It can happen. So that's really the main thing is we need to really, get people to get on their manufacturing companies to make them stop because these are super dangerous. I did want to talk about Cape Fear, North Carolina.
Okay, let's address that.
But we can, if there was something else, we can do that first.
If I can, real quick, I think I posted it in the Friday Slack. FaZe, if you can just pull up the link to the video. Again, this is just a documentary. It's on the Friday Slack. You don't need to play it, FaZe, but I just want people to see that we did a documentary series. Let's pause it. There we go. But if we can just zoom in on the title of the series or the video just so that people can see what it is. Yes, that's perfect right there. So the video in question, a toxic tour of America's most polluted industrial city. Again, this is something we did way early on with Hard Lens Media. This is what we want to do as we build up through Patreon as well, to do more investigative ground work, field work like this. And, you know, it's just covering stuff that you're talking about too. And it's just very frightening to know that nothing has fundamentally changed. So let's continue on through North Carolina.
So this one has to do with the Chemours plant. It used to be a part of DuPont, but they broke off because there were some legal issues because of various PFAS chemicals in the output. So in 2015, Chemours spun off from DuPont because, again, DuPont was having some legal issues with these specific chemicals. So there's a higher than average cancer rate in this city of Cape Fear. So coalitions have been petitioning the EPA for years to try and take a real good look into this plant. And the EPA has rejected most of the petitions. So they agreed only to look into 7 of the 54 chemicals they were asked to look into.
Oh boy.
So that's awesome. So because the numbers were the 70 parts per trillion, and then they were like, for certain of them, there's 140 parts per trillion. It's totally safe for this. But then it turns out, no, it's not. And people are like, hey, can we please not use this chemical anymore? And the colloquial name for this chemical is Gen X, which I found very funny.
Oh, don't blame Gen X. Roger Meadows, you got to say something about this.
Well, see,
it's mere Gen X now.
Right, no, when I first saw it, I was like, they're blaming this petition on Gen X. But no, the actual chemical is HFPO dimer acid. Like, that is the full name, but they call it Gen X. Sure. And the people of Cape Fear have sued, Chemours sued the EPA over the health advisory, saying that they looked at the wrong chemical. It's not Gen X. They looked at something else. They looked at PFOA, which they stopped, which is another which is another PFAS chemical. So they're like, they looked at the wrong one and it's wrong. We should be able to use as much of this as we want to. We have that 140 part per trillion thing that's what's safe. We tested it. You didn't look at the right tests.
Oh, yeah, you didn't look at the right numbers.
You didn't look at the right temps. You didn't look at the right chemicals. But again, it is possible because, as we said before, the EPA only looked at a couple of the things they were asked to look into.
Right.
But at the same time, Chemours, your stuff is dangerous regardless of which one they looked at. It's still a dangerous chemical that you're using, and you know it is. Part of the reason that they are, I think, getting a bit out of shape is because in 2018, because they found such high levels of chemicals in the water, the plant itself is required to place water filtration units in the homes of people whose water is proven to have a certain amount of chemical in them. Now with this lower number, they would have to provide more filters and upgrade filters, and they don't want to.
Oh, like any other regular corporation.
And they don't want to do that.
They don't want to do jack.
Yes. So it is a global, not a global, it's probably global, but it's definitely a nationwide problem. It is something that we should be trying to do something about. We need to be petitioning the EPA. We need to be like double checking them and questioning them. It's like, why aren't you looking at this? Biden administration, you're doing something. Like, they've put a couple of advisories into place. They've poked people in the right direction, but like, we need to be doing more. We need to not let chemical plants get away with this. I mean, we all saw Erin Brockovich.
Yep.
Like, it's dangerous and people are dying like really early of cancer and all sorts of really horrible illnesses. And so again, Chemours says, well, they looked at the wrong chemical, and the EPA is like, well, we actually based this on more than 400 studies. And we did look at Gen X in particular, and in animal testing, there are links between it and effects, like negative effects on the liver, kidney, the immune system, developmental issues, cancer. Like, we saw this in animal studies. Just because Kemmers is saying you can't prove it did anything to humans. Like, but it did it to other things. Like, we know it's bad. So we just need to start really, really trying to push we need to push our legislators, we need to push our senators, we need to look, we actually have to do something about this. It's dangerous, and actually looking at the manufacturers and putting some freaking regulations on some of these massive companies, which I know is not popular with the politicians because these massive companies pay them lots of money. But sometimes, who are you going to rule over if everyone's dead?
Well, I think these politicians don't care because a lot of them are too old to give a damn, but your water's not safe. The air's not safe. The soil's not safe. Be careful out there, folks.
Yes.
Because the water's poisoned.
Use a Brita.